G'day. So today we're looking at PS3 and PS14. PS3 has to do with assessing farm production systems based on measurements of quality or quantity. And PS14 evaluate the management strategies used to assess and meet market specifications. Right. So we're looking at the beef industry. So there are three different um, ways that we can do both. So determining that if the market specs are being met, um, and then meeting market specifications. So we've got kill sheets, cattle care, and MSA. Now, kill sheets it's basically a summary that the producer gets from the abattoirs that outlines exactly how their carcass was rated. So it's specific for individual carcasses that go back to a grower. I've put an example and an explanation sheet. It's a PDF on your Google Classroom for this one. So have a look through. There's a whole heap of information there, and I'll show you in the next sheet. Cattle care is basically a quality assurance program. So basically, it's a program that the farmer must take part in, but it's completely voluntary. Most farmers don't do this, but to get the cattle care logo, which we've got down here, this cattle care logo, to get that, you need to be able to meet the criteria. So you have to have on-farm audits. Everything has to be completely right and all that kind of stuff. So, and then we have the MSA. So the MSA is Meat Standards Australia, and that was brought in around 98, 99 from memory. And basically what it is the push for red meat. So it's lamb and beef primarily, goat to a smaller extent. But it is their way of trying to become a lot more competitive with the other proteins. So in particular, chicken, it's got you buy a packet of chicken at a supermarket and you know exactly what you're going to get. With beef and lamb, there's a little bit more variation just because of the way that they're raised. And that was it's been a big issue for the industry. So by creating these Meat Standards Australia, they were trying to make a more marketable product because people knew what they were going to get from the supermarket. So I'm going to go through each of these now. So kill sheets. So it's a bit of a summary here for us. So these are the individuals, okay? And then this is the information across this way. So we've got sex, age, what else? We've got fat, the property ID, so the PIC number, and then these are the RFIDs, so the NLIS tags. We'll go in more about this kind of stuff. So these are all the things down the side here that goes onto a kill sheet. Now these change from operator to operator, but these are pretty much the main ones. The P8 fat depth. So the P8 site is it's up near the back end of the cow, in between the pin bone and the hip. So pretty much where the tail attaches, kind of towards the front from that. So basically they do a measurement of how deep the fat is at that site. And so you get a score for that. Then we have the fat color. We tend to like clearer, whiter fats. Here in Australia, if you have more grass-fed, they tend to be a little bit different color. Muscle score, so how much muscle there is. pH, which might seem odd, but pH directly affects the tenderness of the meat. So if it's too high or too low, it eats poorly. And then we have rib eye area. So that is, so picture a lamb chop. So that big long muscle that runs along the back for a T-bone, that is the ribeye that you're getting there. Okay. So the advantage of a kill sheet is you get specific. So basically, you get a kill sheet if you're selling directly to a processor. If you're selling at the sale yards, you're not going to get a kill sheet. Okay. If you're marketing directly to the sale yards, you will get a kill sheet, and they will have all that different information for us. Now, it's very specific, and you get paid for what you deliver. Now, I talked about MSA. It's trying to deliver really high quality meat. Now, the disadvantages, it's quite easy to be downgraded if you don't meet market specs. There's costs associated with the assessors, and it takes time. If we had been able to go to the ABS, we would see the whole process. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. So kill sheets, they're specific per animal, and you get paid for what you're producing. If you don't meet market specs, you get downgraded, so you get less money. Okay, so cattle care, it's a QA program. Basically, it's a whole heap of checks that the farmers have to go through. Basically, it allows them to have this logo, and it's a whole farm kind of process. It's not just looking at what animals are being turned off and that kind of thing. So there's advantages and disadvantages. So advantages, well, the aim is to improve quality of beef and regulate production and decrease the risk of producers not meeting specifications. So the idea is if you do all these things correctly, you'll have a better product. Disadvantages, so there are on-site, like it's a big deal. So you have to go through all these checks and balances, you have to be audited, and it could be really, really time consuming for the producers to go through. It's an optional system, and some of your status I'm saying a lot, sorry. Some of the status can be influenced by your neighbours. So say if you're in an area like cotton production or something like that, you may have some issues with spray drift and contamination and that kind of stuff. And that will be really highlighted with this cattle care program. So yeah, there's pluses, minuses. It's optional. It's optional, so not everyone does it, and honestly, not many people do it. So MSA, so it came about trying to combat chicken and pork because they have a really, really consistent quality of meat, and they wanted to be able to bring that to lamb and beef. So the advantages are, the advantages are that you can buy a cut of beef from the supermarket and you know what you're going to get. You don't have to have too much of an expert opinion. Particularly, so this little logo here, not all meat gets that logo. So if you're getting high quality MSA graded, ticked meat from a butcher, you know that it's going to be high quality. You tend not to get the MSA graded stuff at supermarkets. So if we have a look here, we have MSA 3 and MSA 5. So we know that there's tenderness if you get a cut of beef with that grade. Okay, we know that the pH is going to be spot on and it's not going to be too chewy. Right out. So disadvantages. So some of this, like they had to do a whole heap of market research regarding all the different grades and all that kind of stuff. So it was individuals trying cuts of meat and all that kind of stuff. But the biggest thing that makes a difference is how it's cooked. And that is still one of the issues. Like if you get a really lovely cut of beef, lots of intramuscular fat. So it's heavily marbled, everything's right about it, and then you absolutely destroy it by overcooking it. The tenderness goes right down, so it'll be a lot chewier. So that's still a bit of an issue that we have in the beef industry. So that is the MSA. Okay, so ways to meat market spec. So we'll go into more of this. There's another dot point later on. So there's two here that we can look at. So we've got marbling and pH of meat. So marbling is the intramuscular fat. So that is the fat within the muscle, not on the outside, but within the muscle. And it's that fat that makes meat really tender and delicious. Okay, so heavily marbled, really fatty meat is what you're aiming for. In the Japanese market, so Wagyu beef, it is really heavily marbled. I don't think it'd sell very well in a supermarket in Australia because people get turned off by the look of that meat because it is so heavily marbled. So we can, I'm going to zoom in here for us. So marbling has a huge genetic component. So the breed, so Angus and Wagyu are both breeds which have good marbling, and that's a part of the success of Angus as a breed. But then diet has another big factor. So grain fed for 100 days, you're going to get better marbling than grass fed. The next specification is the pH of meat. So we've spoken about that. The higher the pH, the more stressed out the animal has been. So basically pH can be a indication of an animal being stressed out. So I want you to think of steers going onto a truck, then they get off the truck at the sale yards, they go through that whole process, they get back on another truck, and then they go to a processor. So that's a really stressful environment for the steers. So they're going to eat poorly. So if you can sell direct to a processor, the abattoirs themselves, they're having one less operation there, so they're going to be less stressed. Okay, they're going to be on feed for longer, on water for longer, all of that kind of stuff. Rightio, so the pH affects the tenderness of the meat. What else? I think we're all sorted. Let's look here. Okay, so outline a problem a farmer may experience meeting a market specification. So fat depth measured at the P8 site. So again, P8 is right on the rump in between the pin bone and the hip bone. So right up the top of the leg. So measured at P8 site determines how palatable or juicy a piece of beef is. It is measured from a fat score of 1 to 6. It may not be possible to meet this spec due to drought and environmental conditions. They may not allow enough production energy for the fat to be put down. So obviously animals will put down meat and then any excess goes into fat. Disease cause issues as well. Okay, that is this one done.